Hey guys, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. I just got home. It's very rainy out, gloomy, warm, which is nice. It's 11 right now. But it's just kind of one of those days where I really wanted to get home and like put on comfy clothes and like sit with a tea and maybe watch some TV. Have a chat with you guys, of course. I've been wanting to make this video for a little while now because I feel like it's extremely important, and I wish that when I was going through my process I understood what was going on with me, and I just didn't really have any help with that or support, or not quite support, but there weren't a lot of stories out there that were accessible until I started like really asking people questions in real life. So I'm just gonna start at the beginning. I am not gonna show any surgery footage. Obviously I don't have that, and also who wants to see that? But I just want to go through what happened to me so I can maybe comfort somebody that's going through the same thing or help somebody prevent it from happening at all. So I'm gonna be talking about my experience with ovarian cysts and having cyst surgery. So if anybody has like a weak stomach or doesn't like medical things, like I said, I'm not going to show pictures of the surgery, but I do have some footage of me sitting down and talking about my experience when I had first gone to the hospital and saw a doctor and was waiting for my surgery appointment. So I'm going to show you guys that because I show my stomach in the video, and it like hurts my brain to think about now. It's just so insane that that happened to me. And I do have a before and after picture, but like I'm in my underwear, so I'm gonna crop that. Anyway, that was a lot of little disclaimers to get through. Tea break for a second. I made this tea at 8 this morning and it is now 2:30. Okay, so the beginning of 2022, I had the vid, I had a procedure done on my foot. I wasn't working out as much as I had been previously. And so I thought that I was starting to gain weight, like mostly in my mid like stomach region. And so for a couple months, I was trying to get back to working out and I felt very bloated. And I honestly just thought that it was probably something that I was eating, that I had an upset stomach for some reason. I just didn't know what I was looking for, and so I kept making excuses for it. I started getting back into my workout routine. I was working out a lot harder and I wasn't seeing any results. And then eventually the bloating turned into almost like a hard, I want to say lump, but it wasn't a lump. It was like my whole stomach was very bloated and round, but it was hard, like it was solid. So me being me, an anxious person that's full of anxiety, I started Googling a lot of things that it could be and trying to fix it on my own, because I would rather just not go to the doctor. I don't care for my doctor. I don't think that he has women's health in mind. So I haven't seen him in like 4 years. I would rather go to a clinic, to be honest with you. So I was trying to avoid that situation. And then I got to the point that when I laid down flat, my stomach would bump out and I legitimately looked pregnant. Like people that knew I was having stomach issues kept asking me like, are you sure you're not pregnant? And so I actually took a pregnancy test. It was negative. I wasn't going to the bathroom that great. Yeah, also I'm probably gonna get into too much information, but here we are, we're just gonna go for it. So eventually I ended up going to the hospital after I'd gone through a list of possibilities. I did come across ovarian cysts. So I was wondering if it was something to do with my uterus because it was sitting very low. Anyway, so I did go to the hospital. I know, baby. And it took me about 8 hours to get in and see somebody. And so they did an x-ray. Actually, I first got there and a nurse did the intake and triage. And this is when my experience with the medical field starts to go downhill. Like, I really have a bad taste in my mouth for modern medicine after this experience. And maybe that's too extreme. Maybe it's not modern medicine. I think it's more modern doctors or male doctors. That sounds terrible. I know not everybody is the same. The first doctor I saw was amazing, but as I go through it, I'll just explain more about what I mean. So the triage nurse did an intake. I told her I have like a very hard lump in my stomach. I'm not going to the bathroom properly. I'm having a lot of like stomach pains when I eat. I don't know what's going on. And she literally looked at me and was like, so why are you here? Like, she thought that I should just take a ton of laxatives and just cross my fingers and hope for the best. And so that was the first time that I was like, no, there's actually something wrong, because I know my body, so I need to see somebody. So I waited for 8 hours. I got in, did an x-ray, I believe it was. Some kind of thing where I had to get naked and put a robe on. I hate the hospital because of that. They're always just making you get naked. And so the doctor came in. This was at midnight. I had Joel drop me off and just leave me there because I knew it was going to be forever. And I think I was hoping that there was nothing wrong. So I was like, don't even bother waiting for me. Like, it's not a big deal. So it was midnight. I was waiting to call my dad to come get me because Joel had to work early the next day. The doctor comes in and says, like, you're totally fine. You just need to go to the bathroom. And I thought, like, okay, kind of a relief, but like, I've gone through all this. It's been about a month of having these struggles, and you're seriously telling me I just waited 8 hours to be told that I have to go to the bathroom? Anyway, so I said, like, I think you just need to feel it because I'm not describing it properly. And so I laid down and he was pushing on it, and he said, like, no, there's something here. I'm gonna get an ultrasound done. So then I had an ultrasound done, and it was when he was doing like the handheld ultrasound that he was like, there's something wrong with your uterus. I'm not sure what it is, but you need to come back the next morning and we're gonna do like an actual full ultrasound. So obviously, like, panic sets in. It's like midnight. My dad's waiting for me to pick me up. I get home. My cousin was staying with us at the time. So like, I got home, she got home. I like stood in the kitchen for probably an hour just venting to her about what was going on and how nervous I was. So the next morning I went and waited another 4 hours for the results for the ultrasound. And this is my second experience that put me off of male doctors, I guess I'm just gonna say, because it's mostly been male doctors that gave me a hard time. So they called me into the back of the ER. I'm sitting in a room and this male doctor comes in and he says, so you have an ovarian cyst that's very large. I knew that I got ovarian cysts as a little kid, and so I was put on birth control, and I was on it for 12 years. And then about 2 years ago, so a year prior to this issue starting, I went off birth control because I had started doing a lot of research about my own body and realized that birth control is horrible for me. And so I wanted to feel better, and I was feeling a lot better. I do feel better, and I was feeling a lot better at that point, except for this unfortunate situation. So anyway, he said, you have an ovarian cyst. It's very big. It needs to be removed immediately. So I was like, oh my God, surgery. I've never had surgery before. I was like trying not to cry in front of him because he was very cold and like not caring. He almost seemed like it was a bother for him to be there. Like, he was like leaning back in his chair with his legs up talking to me about all the ways that this cyst could kill me. And then he says, but because of COVID, the healthcare system's really bad right now, and you're probably not gonna have surgery until like December. So this was the first week of June. I'm sitting in a hospital. I look like I'm 4 months pregnant, maybe more actually. You know what? Here, we're gonna insert the video right now and you guys can see it, because I was huge. I was so uncomfortable. I said to him, like, this is affecting my life. Like, I'm at the point that I'm having a hard time eating. I was having to take Alka-Seltzer after like every meal because I just felt like there was no room for anything to digest properly. And he literally looked at me and was like, yeah, sorry, that sucks, too bad. So he told me he would put a referral in for a gynecologist, and I would probably see them in a couple months. And then from there, it would probably be like 4 or 5 months before I got my surgery date. Oh yeah, and he told me that if it twists, I'm gonna die. So to get to the hospital as fast as possible. Like literally, this was the conversation. And then there was like a code something, and he was like, oh, sorry, I gotta go, took off. That was it. They let me go. So I bawled my eyes out to the car. I bawled my eyes out driving home, which is not good. And unfortunately, my dad was in my driveway. So when I got out of the car bawling, I like scared him. I scared Joel. It was not a good situation. So because my dad is kind of a psycho and I'm an only child, he literally harassed my family doctor to get an appointment the following week, because it usually takes a month to get in to see my family doctor. I get the appointment with my doctor. I only got the appointment because the receptionist is a woman and she was very concerned for me. I go in to see my doctor. He has the ultrasound, he has the blood work. They did blood work, they know it wasn't cancer, forgot to mention that. That was important. That he had the MRI. He had literally every scan that they did, every test of my body. They did like 4 blood tests while I was there to check for so many different things. I'm sitting in his office after he checks out my stomach, and he is looking at the ultrasound and says, okay, but are you sure you're just not pregnant? Like, are you not a doctor? Like, could you not tell that I'm not pregnant? And then he tells me that he isn't sure what he's looking at, and he wants me to go for 2 more tests, but one of the tests, it takes about 6 months to get into. I don't know why these 2 doctors were like, you're gonna be fine for 6 months. When you guys saw in that video, I'm huge. I'm a very small person. Also, if you don't know me in real life, I'm 5'1". I'm 120 pounds. I don't have room for the amount of liquid that was in that cyst. I know that's disgusting. I forgot to mention that they told me that it was 1 liter of fluid in the cyst. So if you picture a bag of milk, that's what was in my ovary. So I just started bawling, and I was like, I can't live like this. Like, I'm so stressed out. I don't even have a gynecologist because the healthcare system is so bad right now. And so he panicked and got me an appointment with a gyno for that. This appointment was on a Friday. He got me the appointment with her on Monday. So I get in to see the gyno on the Monday. She checks my stomach and is like, holy shit, yeah, that's a big cyst that you have. You're gonna have to have surgery, which I already knew from the doctor at the hospital. So she checks over everything, does a pap test, all that, tells me that I can still work out. So she assured me that I wasn't gonna die. I told her what this first doctor said to me, and she was like, yeah, that's highly unlikely. It's so big now, it's not gonna move. It can burst, but she said she didn't think that it would. So I just needed to try and stay comfortable and go about my life for the next month. She said she had a cancellation, so she would get me into surgery. August 12th was my surgery. So I think it was 2 weeks after that, I couldn't eat anything. I was living off of those like Quaker rice cakes. I could eat mashed potatoes, eggs, stuff that was like soft, because I think it was just like growing and pushing on so many organs that nothing was where it was supposed to be. And so I could feel like after I ate, it was just like a very full pressure type pain. And I was having Alka-Seltzer like after every single meal. I started to lose weight at that point. I don't own a scale, so I don't know how much weight I lost at that point, but that's when I started to lose weight. I am a huge swimmer in the summer, so I was going to swim by myself because I was super self-conscious of how pregnant I looked. So that was a struggle that month before my surgery. Like I remember sitting and thinking like, I can't wait for this chapter in my life to be over. Like, I need this to be over. I never want to do this again. August 12th comes. My surgery is at 9 a.m. I get there at like 6:30, I think, around 6:30. My parents were there. They took me, my mom took me in, sat with me as long as she could. The amount of blood work I've had done over that course of time was unreal. I had to go for several blood tests before the surgery. And if you don't know me, I am deathly afraid of having blood work done. Actually, I was deathly afraid of having blood work done, because by the time that whole experience was over, my like inner arms were black and blue. It was awful. I couldn't eat the night before, but I couldn't eat anyway, so it wasn't really a big deal. I was like so scared because I've never done that before, but everyone there was really amazing. My gynecologist, she was my surgeon, so she came in to see me and told me that everything was going to be fine, not to be nervous. The actual surgery was only supposed to be half an hour long. So what they were going to do, and I can never pronounce this right, I don't know why, the laparoscopy, yeah, I think that's it. So they were supposed to do a laparoscopy, and it's where you have 3 holes. So you have one up at your left rib, one down at your left hip, and then one hole in your belly button. I think they had to pump air into me, so they told me that I would probably have a sore shoulder after, which is so weird, but that's a thing. I think they had to check my bladder too, and they put a catheter in. But they didn't tell me that they were going to, so they probably assumed that I knew that. However, I'd never had surgery before, so I had no idea. I had to walk into the surgery room and get on the table myself, which I think is very just morbid and messed up. They put a bunch of blankets over me. Everyone was super nice. There was so many people in there, and all I could think about was how they were just gonna see all of me. Like all of everything, all these people were gonna see. I remember somebody grabbing this arm, and somebody was talking to me, asking me questions like, how are you doing, blah, blah, blah. And then I heard someone say, we're gonna give you something so that you're not sick when you wake up. And I said, okay. And then I remember him saying, do you want a countdown? And I said, no, it doesn't matter. And then that's all I remember. I woke up from there in the recovery room. I was very groggy when I woke up. So if anyone is going to have surgery and you've never had surgery before, make sure you have someone with you when they're explaining all the things to do, because I was so out of it. Like even to this day, thinking about it, it's like very blurry and fuzzy. My mom asked me a question a few weeks after. She said something like, did they put your underwear on for you? And I was like, did they? Like, I think I woke up with underwear. Did I have underwear on? I had to put a pad on, so I must have had underwear on. Like, it's just this crazy feeling that you're there, but you have no clue what's going on. And so I think that caused a lot of issues for me, because they went over the med list and I couldn't really remember that, and we'll come back to that because there's a story that has to do with that also. I was just very weak and tired. They also told me that because the cyst was so big, they couldn't do a laparoscopy. They had to do, it looked like a mini C-section. So my scar is like this big. It's about 2 inches, a tiny bit bigger maybe. And it's right under where my underwear line sits, so you can't see it when I'm in a bathing suit. They just like slice through all the layers of like skin and muscle and all that. So that kind of surprised me, but because it was different than what I was supposed to have and they didn't tell me, my recovery was not the same. And so I think that contributed to some of the problems that I had, which is related to the medication. We'll get there. My parents picked me up. I went home. I had someone stay with me. Like I said at the time, my cousin was staying with us, which was amazing. She came home and let my mom go home and sleep and sat with me because I couldn't get up and down on my own. Like I couldn't really do anything on my own. So that night I was trying not to take the pain meds, and this is where my problems began. So I was trying not to take the pain meds because from what my foggy memory was of them explaining it to me, the pain meds were highly addictive and that I should only take them if I was desperate. And so I like to think I have a high pain tolerance, and it kind of got the best of me. So I was trying to get through the surgery just taking Tylenol when I needed to. I was only eating like liquids really at that point. I wasn't hungry. It was insane how skinny I was though. I'm gonna show a before and after because I think I just got so used to having a belly that I felt the skinniest that I've ever felt. I actually lost 7 pounds, so I probably was the skinniest that I've been in a very long time. I was 113 pounds when I was checked at the gyno, and my usual weight is 122, 120-ish, so I lost a decent amount of weight within that month. But the problems came the next morning. So the next morning I wasn't sleeping well. I was in a lot of pain. I felt like all of my insides were throbbing. I had a ton of blood coming out of me. So sorry. And they told me that that shouldn't be happening. But they told me that because they thought that I was having a laparoscopy. So I think that was the difference. But in my head, I'm like monitoring all these things because I don't know what's going on. Am I bleeding internally? There's something wrong. And so in the morning, I got myself up, which Joel is still to this day mad about, I think, because he insisted that I wake him up when I need to get up. But I got myself up. It was at like 7:38 in the morning. I was in excruciating pain. I can't even describe to you the pain that I was in. I've never felt pain like that before. I was sweating. I got up to go pee. I couldn't pee. I almost passed out on the toilet. And so I just remember like crawling. I got off the toilet. I'm in like underwear and a t-shirt because I just woke up. I crawl out of the bathroom. I'm in like the kitchen area, and I remember saying to Joel, I need you to call me an ambulance. Please call me an ambulance. And he was like in shock. I remember him looking at me for a second. I'm like writhing in pain. And he looked at me and was like, what, are you serious? Like, you actually want me to call you an ambulance? Like, it was a joke to him. Like, I think he was just stunned. So I was like, yes, now. Call me an ambulance now. I need somebody. I was on hydromorphone, so I had taken one around 7 o'clock, but I think I had let the pain build up for so long and get so bad that one wasn't enough. And they were telling me, like, 1 every 4 hours, that's it. Like, no more. It's very dangerous. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so an ambulance came and got me, and that was fun. That was the first time I've ever been in an ambulance, and I hope that it's the last time that I'm ever in an ambulance. My mom followed me to the hospital, a bunch of tests. They gave me some pain meds. They gave me ibuprofen. Ultimately, I was in the hospital for 4 days after that. It sucked. I also never want to sleep in a hospital again. I was in a merge in the red zone, so that somebody could come in and monitor me and give me meds, help me to the bathroom. I had to have an IV in the whole time. At this point, I have 2 IVs in this arm, 1 IV in this hand. Like, it was psychotic, the amount of IVs that I had in me, and they kept having to flush them, and they were like hurting. I couldn't sleep with them at night. It was just a horrible experience. I had some instances with some doctors who were fighting with me. One told me I didn't have an ovary anymore. And I was like, yeah, buddy, I do. I had to have an ultrasound over the surgery cut. So this was the day after I had to have an ultrasound over it. They gave me too much pain meds, and I was high out of my mind. I couldn't stop crying. It was the worst feeling ever. I was like itchy all over. All around, horrible situation. So when I finally saw my surgeon on like the 4th day, I was desperately trying to get out of the hospital because they had moved me to the hallway, which is something I will never forgive them for, because I have a cut like right above my lady bits and I have to show it to people all the time, and they were overcrowded, so I was in the hallway. I actually wrote a complaint about that because it was some guy who just came down and was like, I want her room. Yeah, anyway, so when I actually saw the surgeon, she came by to say that I could go home. She told me that I have an allergy to ibuprofen, so they were monitoring my liver and couldn't figure out why my liver was having a hard time, and it's because it can't process ibuprofen. So that's something that I learned in the hospital. And she told me that they didn't really prepare me well. So she said that everything I was experiencing was normal. I should have been taking way more pain meds. She said I should have been taking 2, and like at most I could have taken 1 every hour. So they made it scarier than it should have been. And she told me that I could take Tylenol with the pain meds. So I was supposed to be taking pain meds and Tylenol regularly throughout the day. They gave me a decent amount of them. So I caused a lot of the problems because I wasn't taking the medication properly. So lesson learned. And then she told me that I of course was going to bleed a lot because the cyst was inside my ovary. So my ovary is supposed to be like this big, like the size of an almond, and it had 1.2 liters of fluid inside it. So she said that they, and I quote, filleted my ovary. So that's why I was having so much blood come out. So unfortunately, the whole hospital stay was just like a miscommunication, misunderstanding, me panicking because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if something was wrong. Unfortunate, but here we are. Like, it happened. It is what it is. I scared everybody. I think I almost killed Joel. So after the surgery, that hospital stay, I really decided that I never want to do this again. I'm like still putting out to the universe that I'm healthy, I am happy, there's nothing wrong, like I am the epitome of health. And so I spoke to my gynecologist about how to avoid this situation. And do you guys want to know what she said to me? This is my next little complaint about modern medicine. She told me that the only way to prevent ovarian cysts is to go on birth control, which I am very much against personally for me, just from my experience with it. And I asked her what causes it, and she told me nobody knows. Like, how are we in 2022 at the time and nobody knows how an ovarian cyst is caused? And this is the valuable things that I've learned that I'm hoping might be able to help somebody else. So I found some nutritionists and I started learning from them. I actually hired one of them to help teach me about balancing my hormones, what could have caused it. Like, they were actual practitioners and nutritionists that specialize in this situation, have gone through similar things and believe that they can help you heal your body. And so some people might think that's insane, but just from my experience, best decision that I ever made. So NIKKI is her name. Nourishing with NIKKI, I think, is her tag on Instagram. I'll put it below. She went over everything. She explained it all. A lot of it makes so much sense to me. So from what I've learned, an excess of estrogen is what can cause ovarian cysts. Obviously not scientifically proven. It causes your liver to not filter properly. Oh my goodness, I couldn't filter out the ibuprofen. I found a lot of issues with my life, the way I treated my body and my diet that I'm pretty sure led me to that situation. So she made me a meal plan. I was not getting nearly enough protein. I have not been able to eat red meat for a very, very long time. I always just thought that I was intolerant or allergic. And so my meals that I was making that I thought was healthy, they were all vegetarian and they had no protein in them. So I had to change a lot of things to balance my hormones. I had to start eating breakfast regularly. I had to eat a lot of protein for breakfast. I reported to her all of my meals. I was exercising too hard. I was doing way too much cardio, which puts a lot of stress on your body, and that can cause an imbalance of hormones. I started doing castor packs, still do them often. My sleep schedule was hurting my hormones. The supplements that I was taking were hurting my hormones. I was taking a lot of vitamin D because I suffer from depression and seasonal depression. I take antidepressants, but sometimes they're not enough in the winter. But I learned that vitamin D is a hormone, so it can throw off your hormones. I now take cod liver oil because it's a natural supplement of vitamin D. There were just so many things that I can look back now and understand why my body got to that point. And so many things that I thought were good because like society, the world says they're good, and they just weren't good for me. Another thing that I also noticed, which was just insane to me is that this is not something that people talk about, or at least that women talk about that I've seen. So once I started talking about my cyst and letting like people in my family know, friends, I kept getting so much feedback that almost every woman in my life has had this problem. It hasn't gotten as severe as mine got, but they've all had that problem. Every doctor's been like, yeah, sorry, we can't help you, just take birth control. They all got sick from birth control or had issues with birth control, and they were just told that they need to cross their fingers and hope. And I just don't think that that is accurate. Like, how on earth is that possible at this point? There has to be something that causes it. There has to be a way to fix it. And so I am now 6 months post-op, and fingers crossed, I feel great. I have gone for an ultrasound checkup just to double check and make sure everything's okay, because I do get pains once in a while. And I can also eat red meat again. I haven't tried pork yet because that was the main thing that made me violently ill when I was having problems, but I can eat beef. I've like learned how to heal my digestive system, which then in turn helps my hormones. So I just think that there's more answers than what the doctors are giving. After my whole experience with this, I obviously believe in modern medicine. I believe that we need it. I'm not anti-vax or anything like that. But I do see a gray area with women's health where a lot of things are just brushed aside and nothing's really looked into or explored. If I had listened to the first nurse, a few of the doctors, I might not even have my surgery yet. Like, it's just insane to me how we don't share this with women. We don't share the possibilities. We don't share what to look out for. I had no idea what to look for, which is why I got so bad. Like, none of that is taught or explained or like passed down, and it just hurts my brain to think about. So thankfully, I have taken the steps I've taken to start healing my body. I worked with my nutritionist for 3 months, and I'm still implementing all of the things she suggested. I can feel my body getting better all the time. I can eat so many things that used to bother my stomach before. The main thing is I feel really good. Like, I feel mentally good, energetically good, physically good, and it took a lot to get to this point, a lot of not great experiences, but in the end, I am thankful for everything that I've learned from it, and I'm hoping that my story can help other people. I've had a couple friends who have been told they have an ovarian cyst. They've been told the only thing you can do is go on birth control, like, we can't help you, we don't know why it's caused. And I've been able to share my knowledge and some of the things that have helped me. One of my friends demanded that she had an ultrasound because she felt like something was wrong. I am very much into advocating for yourself now because I have seen what would have happened if I didn't. And it sucks that it's still like that, especially for women, but I just want to say that if you feel something is wrong, you need to fight for yourself, especially when it comes to like your uterus, ovaries. You have other options. That is my ovarian cyst story. That's my surgery story. I hope that it was useful to somebody. If you are going through the same thing, you're gonna be totally fine. Like, I believe that everything is gonna be okay, and just remember to stick up for yourself, make the choices that you believe are right, because you know you best. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.